I can see some answers already popping in the chat. No, this is not in check for whites. The black pawns are going downwards, white pawns are going upwards. Normally assume that with all problems that white pawns go up, black pawns go down. Okay, and Marian has joined us again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. This happens also in online games. As you know, internet sometimes suddenly disappears when it shouldn't. I just wanted to add that theory of two movers is developing more than 150 years, very intensively. And many of the problems you will see today are old 100 years or even more. And all in all, the theory of chess composition develops some 13 centuries from the first Arab manuscripts. Now we will see some basic tricks in two movers that later will be applied to longer problems, mate in free, mate in more, and even to endgames. Okay, Anirudh, thank you.
Yeah. So I've already given the problem, and I can see some correct answers in the chat as well. And some wrong as well. I would say keep thinking to those. What we will try and do in this is also pay more attention on the tries. So what are tries? Tries are basically moves, like white moves, that look like it's the solution, but they miss out by just one move of black, which stops the mate in two. And it's important to take note of those as well, because that's what helps us become better solvers, so that we know where we went wrong. Maybe one more minute and then we will start with the solution. There are some wrong answers coming in as well, which is always nice to see as a so that we can teach you where you went wrong and so that you can learn something new. I'm trying to remove the spotlight from mine so I can see the board bigger. I think I've done that.
It's good to see many correct solutions. So I believe it's maybe time to start analyzing what's wrong and what's correct.
Yeah. So these, first of all, are the wrong moves. It's normally if it's a wrong move, there's a question mark after the first move. Like you can say bishop a4 question mark. That essentially means that, it's a mistake in terms of solving the mate in two, since it's not the best move. But why is it not the best move? So perhaps we can switch over to Lichess to figure that out. So one move which was suggested a lot was king to c8. And I mean, that makes sense, if you play b6, there's knight c7 checkmate. But the problem is that b5. Now, what happens is that there is no bishop c8 for checkmate. And it's good to note at the starting position, if we, let's say, skip white's first move and say it's black to play now, whatever black plays, let's say black plays b6, there's knight c7 checkmate. If black plays b5, there's bishop c8 checkmate. So technically, if it was black's turn to move, white would have already won the game. But it's not. And so white in this scenario has to play a waiting move. And so what is the West's waiting move here? Moving the king to the corner. If you play b5, bishop c8, b6, knight c7. And but first we should also look at the tries which could happen. Let's say, if you try moving the bishop away to, like, let's say a4, then there's b5, because now there is no bishop c8. Your bishop is blocked. If you play any move with the knight, for instance, knight here, then there are lots of moves. Black can play king b6, black can play b6, b5. This knight is an integral role. So that doesn't work. Let's say if you go bishop e8, for instance, same thing, b5. You can't do anything. And finally, instead of king c8, I think some of you also said king c7. Well, guess what? This blocks this knight's role. This knight's going to c7, and so black can play b6 now. And knight c7 cannot be played because the king is in its way. So that's why white's best move is this subtle move, just moving the king away, so that no matter what black plays, there's a checkmate. Okay, Marian, anything
I
to
mean,
add here?
yes, I would gladly add some points. You can look at this position after king a8, and now you will notice that black pawn on a7 is really not needed there. Why it is on the board? You know, in the chess problems, chess composition, composers put on the board only the needed pieces. Here, the main reason for putting this black pawn on a7 is to allow really the tries with king c7 and king c8. Without this pawn, this would be very stupid moves. Nobody would try even to play these moves. So sometimes composers add some pieces because of tries. Not so often, but you know, tries are often very important part of the solution. About the replies you send, I just want to remind all those who turn around the board and who wrote King H1 that don't do this during competition. Please take a look at the whole board. So it's exactly King A8. Yeah, that's one more point. Sorry. What is really White doing here? White is waiting for Black to make a weakness in the position. Pawn going to b6 self-blocks square b6 and allows knight to move. Pawn going to b5 self-blocks b5 and allows bishop to move. And self-blocks are very important tactical motives in chess problems, so you should learn about them. But you see, when the composer added tries, king c7 and king c8, now white king is self-blocking his own pieces. And this makes the whole idea complete. In the tries, white blocks his pieces. In the solution, black blocks his king. Yeah, that's about all from me.
Yeah, and we will be, of course, covering self blocks a bit more later. One person has asked about whether there will be some problems as homework. Yes, indeed, we will give two problems as homework, and you're welcome to ask for more, as we would love to provide you with it. Should we move on to the next one, Marian?
Yeah, of course.
So this was the first one, a slightly easy one to start off with, and it's one to refresh your brains and to check all moves, check the black moves more importantly as well. Now, another interesting idea which many composers like to put is this idea of indirect attack, also known as batteries. So, batteries can be very powerful because they can be quite surprising. They can be something which doesn't come to your brain instantly, and you have to think that, oh, maybe this bishop can move out to give a check. And I think that's one tactic which many composers employ to make their mate in twos so that it's much more harder to solve. So here is one by Edward Boswell, 1929. Oh, and just to say, the name on top of the board that depicts the person who made the problem. So it's known as the composer, like how there's a music composer like Beethoven. There is chess composer who makes these problems so that we can enjoy solving them. So, yeah, it is white to play mate in two. Again, I would advise you to take 20-30 seconds to just look at the board before writing the solution down. Okay, very nice, very nice. Again, I would want everyone to pay attention to what they are writing as in the notation. We can see that you have the right idea, but perhaps in the real competitions, you might get a few marks off because of doing so.
And now we already have several correct solutions and several wrong tries. And this is good. Both is good, just to see and analyze what is good and what is bad.
And can also see some people providing the full variation, which is very nice to see because that just reaffirms that you know the solution well.
I would particularly like to point the move Queen F6 check that some of you have written. Just always remember that giving check in the first move of mate in 2 would be too brutal for chess problem. You can see it in chess combinations, normal chess, but in chess problems it's avoided as too easy and too brutal. So if you think that checking black king is right beginning, think twice. Just check what you saw.
Yes, because in many times, a check feels like it's, the best move because you're giving a check, you're getting closer to the king, and maybe there's a checkmate. But most of the times, we can assure you that it's not the right answer. Think harder. In this case, Queen F6 check is indeed not the right answer, because there are three pawns and all three of them can just push ahead and block the queen. So it would not be a mate in two.
And now maybe it's time to start checking the wrong moves. What do you think, Henry? Could we shift to wrong moves?
Sure. So these are some of the wrong moves or tries after which, so let's say queen into d5, it's a good idea, but it's met by this good move b2. And perhaps we can show it on the Lichess board to better understand. And here it is. So I think some of you had said queen f6 check. It's a mate in 3, not a mate in 2, because there's d4, and queen into d4 is not checkmate because black can play c3. So yes, close, but not quite there. Uh, what other moves were there? There was some queen into d5, a good move because you're wanting to play queen d1 checkmate, but black can play the nice idea b2. What that happens is now the only check available is queen d1 or queen h1, after which black can slyly just play b1 queen or any piece to block the check. And so it would not be a mate in 2 again. It's important to, because this is not a white to play and win. Of course, anyone can win from this position since you're queen up. But it's important to mate in the least amounts of moves possible. In this case, 2. So there were some of queen
Queen
to
a4
queen
or b5
a4.
or a4. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is also.
So queen
And
b5, again, a good idea
mhm.
because if b2, then there's queen into b2, checkmate. If you play c3, then this opens the line, queen f1, checkmate. But the problem is d4. Now white can do nothing. And there is simply no check. And the best white can do is try to mate into from this position. But it won't work. There are no checks.
Very similar move. Now somebody wrote down queen b7. Let's see queen b7.
Yeah, again, same thing. If you play b2, queen into b2. If you play d4, then there's queen h1. But the problem is c3. Now there's nothing. You have to play queen into b3 and it's not check. And
By the way,
similarly, yeah, go on.
yeah, sorry. By the way, now somebody wrote queen h6, and king b4. We could check such moves.
Good idea, queen h6. Again, there's b2. Not quite there because any check on the last rank can be met by b1. Similarly, something like king b4 just allows the black king to just run away quickly. King b2 doesn't work. So maybe we should go to the right answer, which is indeed queen to a8, as many of you have already found. So what queen a8 does, it creates a battery or an indirect attack on the black king. And if something like b2 happens, then there's king b4 checkmate. What happens is this black is self-blocking this king from moving away. And if black plays c3, then there is king into b3 checkmate. Now b3, after moving c3, the b3 pawn is on loose and black king can take it. And finally, if white plays d4, now white can play queen h1 because this d pawn is moved away from this important diagonal. And so there's checkmate. So yeah, so well done to everyone who found it. It was a particularly tough problem as well. What is the
Okay, but now,
difference? Sorry, what is the
yes.
difference between queen a6 and queen a8? Great question. The important difference is that after queen a6, black can play d4. Now, after if there was queen a8, white could have quickly played queen h1 checkmate because this line was open, this diagonal. But after d4, white has nothing on a6. Yeah, go on, Marian.
Okay, one thing you can notice in this problem is that first move of white, queen going away, further away from black king. This is very much preferred method by composers. They will always enjoy putting in front of you such first moves that go far away from the place where you are looking at. If you are looking at around black king, composer will try to trick you and to make first move going far away from it. Yeah, I believe we mastered this one. We could maybe go on.
Yeah,
Or maybe someone still has some questions.
yeah, let's wait just 5-10 seconds if anyone has any other questions. I think I've answered most of them. Mm. Okay, let's go to the next one. So, indeed, the right answer is queen a8. Now, when solving some chess problems, there's always a cunning idea by black, which is stalemate. This can automatically lead to a draw, and that is black's last weapon in his big repertoire. And these type of stalemate possibilities can allow for very unusual and surprising mates, like the next one here. Mate in two will give you perhaps a little less time than previous ones, around 1 or 2 minutes. And again, like this is by Gerhard Kaiser, 1939. So it was published like 85 years old. So the problems we're discussing are super old, but they are gold, as they say. Yes, indeed, we're trying to checkmate black. It's a mate in two, not a stalemate in two, a mate in two.
In game of chess, you got used to mate black king on the edge of the board. And in chess problems, you will be getting used to mate it in the middle of the board. Such middle board mating pictures are rare in chess game, and you will get to know many of them. In this case, you will really have to have some imagination to see the final mating position.
It is important to note that some of them have the right idea, but please check your notation.
Yes, some of the replies are really impossible moves to play on the board. Yes, like
Exactly.
queen d5. This is impossible. Yes, or move like queen d8 check. It's impossible, completely impossible.
Yeah.
Probably thinking of queen d1, but yes, again, not good enough.
Okay, I think we should go ahead with the solution.
Mhm.
And first, we could just give a try, give a hint. Any move on the second rank by the queen is stalemate. Many of you fell for that trap. And so let's perhaps discuss that on the board itself. Here, some people gave ideas like queen d1 check, but the main idea is black can run away with king b2. Now, if you give queen b1, there's king c3. On the other hand, if black had played king a2, of course there was mates, right? But black would never fall into that. He would play a little away from the edge of the board. That's why king b2, and there's not mate just yet.
Then
Uh,
there are several attempts with king queen e5 check. This is interesting to see.
mhm. Queen e5 check, and it looks like, this that all the diagonals are covered. After king a2, however, there is no mate. Something like bishop c4 check would lead to king b1, and any other move, let's say queen e2, king a1 again. So no matter where white moves, the a1 or b1 will be vacated. There were some
One advice, one advice. Sorry, one advice when you try to give mate and you give check, always check if king can go back to the square where he came from. This is very important. You give check, but first see if he can back to the square he came from.
yeah, and
Now we could go to the solution, yes?
yeah, and the solution is a very paradoxical one, which is queen e7. I know some had written queen d2 as the right answer, and perhaps thinking that queen d2 and e7 are equivalent. However, queen d2 in this scenario would be a stalemate. Even though we knew that you were meaning the right answer, queen e7 has to be written down correctly. So what queen e7 does is that now whatever black plays, king a2, king b2, white simply just goes to a3. And this maneuver is quite interesting because normally you would never think of moving the queen away from guiding these important and crucial squares. But it's important so that the white queen can reach a better square on a3, where it covers the whole moves of where the black king can go. So yeah, it's a slightly paradoxical one because normally you would never think of moving the queen away. But yes, stalemate was indeed black's last weapon. Let's move to the next problem, shall we, Marion?
Okay, just two things. First of all, don't forget that bottom rank, down rank is the first rank, and
Mm-hmm.
top rank is the eighth rank. Don't turn around board when you're solving. Even if you come to the some chessboard where the squares and numbers are really turned around, always think that on the bottom you have first rank and white pawns always going up, black pawns always going down. This is one thing. Another just little point to tell you that here the composer applied the same psychological trick. First move is far away from your eyes, far away from the place where you are looking at the moment. This is very usual important trick.
Yeah. All right, let's move to the next one since we have a lot to cover. This is a very interesting one because this takes a role of a detective from a chess composer's point of view. Because in chess compositions, what they want is that all pieces should have some roles, or else why would you even keep it there? And so sometimes to solve a problem, you can be a little cheeky and try to guess what the purpose is. Uh, and you can ask questions to yourself like, oh, what white piece does nothing and might be used in the solution? So here is a problem for you by Emil Gross, 1925, precisely 99 years old. It is a mate in two, and beware, this is very much tougher than the previous ones, so take your time before solving. We would also just like to say that we are trying to reply to the answers which you have provided. And so it might take some time to respond on chat since there's so many people just messaging the right answers or the wrong answers. So please keep that in mind. And to those who have raised their hand, it would be nice if you could simply just type the your questions if you have any in the Q&A so that we can answer them at the end.
While solving this problem, after finding some right move by white and some nice mate, please check all black defenses, because this problem includes many different variations. So try to check all black defenses before writing the key move.
And yes, one or two people have given a almost a perfect answer with all variations. So very proud of that. Again, one or two have the right intention, but it is important to note that please keep the notation correct and do not mirror it around.
Okay, may I ask one additional question? All those who wrote correct first move, what is the threat of white after the first move? If you have written and found correct first move, could you now just write what is white threatening after the first move?
Yeah.
The threat itself is quite tricky, so I would like to see if you have got the threat in this problem. Yes, some good answers. This is good.
Yes,
Yeah.
very nice, very nice. Perhaps we should give a small hint to those who haven't already figured the problem out, solution. The pawn on d2 is suspiciously not doing anything. What would be the point of placing that? Perhaps, Marian, let's discuss some tries, which some people have already said. Should we do
Uh-huh.
that?
Why not? Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so one or two people had written king to b4, and I think this is a very good learning point for us, is that normally you should never ever move your king into check, because black can simply try playing a move like bishop a5. And even if it may not be the best move for black, the point is that he's evading checkmates, because now white has to answer this check. And when he takes it, there's no mating two anymore. And so it's important sometimes to note of some of the pieces around your white king and whether they can give any check to you, because you will have to parry that after your white move. And moving into a check is normally unadvisable. So king b4 is ruled out. I think one or two had said d into e3. Well, there are two moves which black could play. One being bishop into e3, simply just taking the pawn away. And the other being simply king to c6. There is nothing which white can do to stop this black king from escaping for the time being. Um, Some had tried to play something like d3, maybe to free this bishop away from its role of guarding e4, but there's really no point of doing that. Black can play literally any move like e2. There's no checkmate, there's no threat. And it's important that sometimes when you think black has a lot of moves, you should always have a threat in mind that you're working towards.
Yeah, I have one more question for all those who already solved the problem. Could you write down how many different mates you found in this problem? How many different mates there are?
Because there are a lot.
Yeah. More, it's more than this.
By different mates, we mean all the different positions. So essentially, after the first move, what moves can black play so that he can stop the threat?
Yeah.
After which, you'll have to count each and every one, even if they're redundant.
Okay, some answers 8 and 9, there are too many. This is not really possible in this position. But okay, let's conclude that there are 4 different mates, but 5 different mating positions. You will see that mating positions will not be the same. Okay, let's see the complete solution.
D4. Now, what white does is that he is controlling c5 and e5, and at the price of this white pawn, which was not doing anything on d2. And this frees up this white queen, and so the idea is to play queen d7, which is checkmate. So what can black play so that he can stop this checkmate? Well, first of all, he can simply, just take this pawn. After which, white can play bishop to e4. Now that d4 is freed up. If black takes this pawn with the black king, then there's queen to d6 checkmate. And again, now that this e3 pawn is blocking this black king from moving away. If black plays something like king to c6, again, there's queen d7 checkmate. If black plays bishop c5 or bishop c7, then white plays queen to c5 checkmate. And the important thing is that this bishop is now not guarding c5 anymore, and so this checkmate is possible.
Yeah, I believe we can slowly conclude with this problem and keep going on. Some nice variations, self blocks, and nice, beautiful mating positions.
So sometimes you should indeed take the role of a detective. That is, think about, are there any pieces of whites that are not doing anything which could do something? Perhaps that's the right answer. Okay, let's go to the next one. Here, it's important to note that some chess problems are specifically designed so that a solver cannot look at the solution straight away, and they can fall into so-called traps, which are known as the tries. Like I said earlier, they mean that they look like the right answer, but they miss out by maybe one or two black moves that prevent them from being a mate in two. So there's important, and I think this has been said by many chess teachers in chess games as well, to look at all of the candidate moves. So all of the moves that could be the best move for a mate in two. And so in the next position, which we're going to show you, solvers normally first see the wrong moves. Why to play mate in two? Yeah, I think one had asked about bishop to a7. Well, that doesn't stop the threats, which is queen d7 checkmate. That's of the previous position now. So moving on, white to play mate in two. Again, this is a problem which was 95 years old. Okay, very nice. Some are finally getting the right answer. And it's also very nice to see that there are some who've written the whole variation down. Well done. Okay, just to speed things up a little, Marian, should we just show the tries first?
Yeah. Now we got the last answer we got is usually the first try everybody tries. Queen b2.
Just a second. Yeah.
It's the most logical chess move. No, queen b1, queen b2 is impossible.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Exactly.
It was mistaken writing somebody else. Queen b1.
And I guess the
And
idea
there are
of
several.
one is that there are three different mates which could happen. So surely black can't stop all of them at once, can he? And that's the main point. I mean, after queen b1, black can play this good move, bishop to c6. Now queen b5 checkmate is stopped, and any check on this rank is met by bishop to a4. And there's nothing. So queen b1 doesn't work, even though it feels very tempting. There were a few nice ideas of queen d7. Again, idea being queen to b5, checkmate, and if the bishop moves, perhaps queen a7. But no, close, but there's bishop to a7 now. And now white can't do anything if something like queen c7, king a4, black runs away. So the right move here is indeed to play queen to f7. On the same line, trying to somewhat pin this bishop so that if this bishop moves, there's queen a7, but also keeping in mind queen to a2 checkmate, because black has to try and stop that. maybe he plays something like bishop to d5, but no, there's queen a7, checkmate. If he tries moving his king away, well, either way, there is still queen a2. He can't do anything about it. And so he is now there, while he can't do anything. Marian, anything to add?
Yeah, there is just another example of the chess rule that line pieces like queen, rook, and bishop could be even stronger if more far away from the goal. And you see here that queen is stronger being more away from black king. Yeah, that's all about this. Nicely solved. We could move on.
Okay. Now, this is a slightly harder problem on the same line, and there are a lot of more candidate moves, so look at them a bit more carefully. Perhaps, Marian, we should end with this problem, and then the rest of the problems could be homework.
Yeah, why not? Let's see how this one goes.
Yeah. So regarding the homework, what we will do is that we will send you a PDF, Google Doc, whatever, of 4 or 5 problems which we compiled for you to solve. And of course, this is just for your own learning and to understand. And perhaps we haven't really decided that yet, but we could either send the solutions in a separate email, which you can check maybe 4 or 5 days later, or we will discuss them at the start of the next session. One of the two.
Yeah,
Anyways, white to play and mate in two. And this one's very interesting because there are a lots of white pieces on the board, like especially all of the white's minor pieces against the sole black king. But the problem is that all of them are almost blocking each other. Like, the bishop on b3 is blocking both white knights' way to go there. On the other hand, the white bishop on e3 is feeling a little excluded because of the white king on d4 and white knight on d2 and so on. So you have to try and unentangle them from their positions. So how can you do that? Okay, and this time we're getting a lot more wrong answers, which is very nice to see because these are the type of problems that can always trick you from what is the right path which you're supposed to think about. Okay, I think many have answered already. Perhaps I can open the tries up. Should I do that?
yeah,
These are some of the tries which white can do. So, what is white intending to do? And I'll pull up Lichess so that you can see a bit better. What is white intending to do by moving his king away? Well, the main idea is that so that this white bishop can have a more free environment where he can play something like bishop to d4. And what other thing it does is that it puts the black king in Zugzwang, as you will see. Anyways, let's go with one move which many have said as king to c4. Well, this almost works. The main idea is that if king c1, then there's knight d3 checkmate. If king a1, then there's bishop d4 checkmate. But the problem is black goes to a3. And this white king on c4 is not being nice because it's blocking its own knights from going to c4, which would have been checkmate if not for the white king. Similarly, if white plays king d3, same thing, this time king a3 is met by knight c4, but now king c1. And knight d3 is no longer checkmate because the white king is blocking it. I think one of you had said king to d5. Close, but the problem here is that now black can play king c3. Now, of course, what white was thinking that, oh, I won't go to c4 or d3 to block my knights. Instead, I'll move a little further away. But no, king c3. And again, white cannot play something like bishop d4 because it's not checkmate. He can take the knight.
And cannot play knight a4 because d3 is not guarded, yes.
Of course, yeah. D3 is not guarded. And so I think we can see a pattern. We must play a white king move, which guards D3. And this is some of the logical thinking and logical steps which you should take when solving a problem. That, oh, this doesn't work because of this square is unguarded. Perhaps I can play a move so that this guards the square, but has the same intentions. And that is exactly what king e4 does. And now the point is, king a1, there's bishop d4 checkmate. If king a3, there's knight c4 checkmate. If there's king c1, knight d3 checkmate. And importantly, if there's king c3, there's knight a4 checkmate.
Good. I can add a few words about chess visual art in this case, because this is an example of graphical art. You can see that not only about finding mating move, but here there is beauty about the ways black king plays. They are creating kind of star. But not only that, take a look at the ways where white king may go in the tries in the solution. And if you see moves of the white king to d3, c4, d5, and e4, tries plus solution, then you will see some kind of cross, perfect geometrical cross made by white king. So there is some kind of duel of beautiful geometrical figures in this problem. And this is what composers think about. And sometimes you can think about it while solving, sometimes you can enjoy such things.
Yep. Just some people have raised up their hand. Again, we would like it if you could simply put in your queries in the Q&A or in the chat box to us so that we can receive them, because it's tough to pick out every single one who has raised their hand up. Okay, I think that should be it for this problem. So again, I'll just recap it. King e4, if goes king c3, knight a4. The nice part is that this white bishop guards this knight guards this bishop, and this bishop guards so many squares. Similarly, if king c1, there's knight to d3 checkmate. King to a1, there is bishop d4 checkmate. And king to a3, there is knight to c4 checkmate. All right, that should be it. What we will be doing is that we will send you the homeworks over email in like around 1.5 hours, which you can try solving on your own time, of course, in the next week. And if you have any questions regarding them, please just message us. We would love to reply and provide you with assistance regarding it. If you have any questions, please just send them to us. Again, I highly say so. Or else we can close this session. Or maybe, Marian, we can discuss some of these questions which were present last time.
Yes, we can go shortly through some of the questions, yes, just for the end. Okay, as you remember, you sent several questions. We collected some of them. I will check now some of them that I have here. They should be really replied. So one question: what's the need of using multiple boards during solving? Well, you can imagine you get solving sheet with 6 problems, and then there are many pieces on the board of one problem. So what you really do, you start putting all these pieces on the board, and if you don't solve it after 10 or 15 minutes, you get disappointed, and then you have to move away all those pieces and to put the next problem. If you have 2 or more boards, you can always leave one board aside and problem on it. By the way, one of the general advices in solving any kind of problems is one of the best method of solving is to stop solving for some time because when you stop solving and you take attention on something else, then you subconsciously still keep thinking about the position and you solve it easier. Next question we got is, what is the source of purchasing boards like those multiple boards? Well, you know, you can really find them on Amazon or wherever on internet. Next question from trainers, how to control who solves first. There is a simple method of using the timer, big timer on the screen in the hall or any kind of watch or clock. Next, how to proceed with the exercise when the exercise is not completely solved well and only has some parts. This is distribution of points we were talking about in the introductory session. You will see much more of it when we go next time to free movers. You will see that some variation get 0 points, 75 points, and so on. Anyway, in total, it should be 5. The importance of two movers for you during solving competitions is that only one single move brings you all 5 points. That's why it is very important to solve correctly, mate in two, because you can get 5 points with only one move. In all other problems, you will have to write much more. There were some more questions here. Can the participants talk to other competitors? No, absolutely not. This is completely forbidden. To other competitors, to parents, to trainers, no, no talk at all. Can the participants get up from the table to go to bathroom? Well, this is completely restricted and sometimes completely forbidden. When there is a short competition like there will be in Italy, only 1 hour, you shouldn't really go out. Because, you know, yes, there are some measures we have to have against any possible cheating. And then how the problems are selected to guarantee transparency in the competition. They are selected by very expert solving judges. And in the future competitions in Italy and Brazil, they will be selected by a single person. And he would be the only one who knows really the problems. There are no problems about transparency in solving competitions. And what else we have here? Where the problems to be developed can be taken from. You know, one of the perfect places to look for good problems is called solving calendar. It's page of the WFCC website, World Federation for Chess Composition. You can go to this WFCC address. Okay, I can write it down here.
Yep, I'll send it on the chat.
Okay, I repeat it on chat. Okay, and then you go to competitions, and then from competitions you go to solving, and from solving you go to solving portal. There you have solving calendar, and solving calendar includes, now you can see it in chat, all this process: competition, solving portal, solving calendar. Solving calendar includes all the competitions, serious competitions around the world. You can find their announcement, problems, solutions, results, and you can pick what you want to train with. So these were short answers to your questions up to now. And hopefully there will be some more. Thank you very much. You were wonderful today, solving so nicely. Thank you, Anirudh, for preparing all of it. Let's see what will be in the match India-Serbia in the Chess Olympiad now. I'm afraid that you will be more joyful after the match. But okay, let's see. It will be a tough one.
Yeah, let's
So
see.
see you next Saturday, hopefully.
Sure. Just one thing which I wanted to address is that many have asked for a recording, and we would just like to inform you that the recordings will probably be provided after all the 5 sessions have been elapsed. And so, but of course, we would like you and we would love it if you could join in live so that it's more interactive and so you're able to solve the problems real time rather than just looking at a screen of me and Marian talking about the problem. You can actually be part of it. Okay, I think,
One more thing, I just
yeah,
I sent one more thing in the chat as suggested. Good suggestion. You see this Mat Plus Net 6 two movers every day. By the way, this is how two mover is usually written. You can see the last note in the chat. So you have 6 new two movers every day. When you go to Mat Plus Net, you just need to register there and to start participating, and you will not only have pleasure of solving, but also you can see the final standings and where are you in these standings at the end.
yeah. And you are in competition with a lot of experienced solvers as well. So it's a chance to learn. Okay. Uh, I think let's now leave, shall we, Marian? It was a pleasure to have large attendance here, and thank you very much for joining in. And we hope to see you next week. We will send out the homework soon, so please keep a lookout on your email addresses so that you can have some practice in solving these mates in twos. Okay,
Okay, goodbye to everybody. See
that's
you
it.
next
Bye
Saturday.
bye.